Okay, let's do this. Welcome everyone. Welcome anyone. All right. Welcome everyone to session number 222 of Kevin Reads A Course in Miracles. All righty then. And we are in chapter 28, The Undoing of Fear. And we are in section 7, Roman numeral 7, VII, entitled The Ark of Safety. All right. So the Ark of Safety, it's a poetic, symbolic reference, right? A metaphor, if I remember those things. All right. The ark, in the tale of the Noah's Ark, the animals were called in, and they came in 2 by 2. So there's a good reference for an ark. All right, and the Ark of Safety is that place of peace in your mind. All right. And as Jesus would tell us, the Ark of Safety is entered 2 by 2, and it's the idea of forgiveness. And in the Course's idea of forgiveness, it is first identifying what I'm projecting onto my brother, right, what I'm projecting onto the other person, and then saying, I don't want that anymore. I don't want that ego interpretation. All right? And you come back into your mind and you ask, you unite with that memory of who you are. All right? We call it Jesus, we call it Holy Spirit, okay? And you ask, help me to see this correctly. I'm willing to go past the form. And that's the process of forgiveness. It takes a hell of a lot longer to verbalize it than it does to experience it. Okay? But with practice, it becomes quicker. All right? And that practice entails dedication and the desire, actual desire to see. I'm determined to see correctly is one of the lessons. I'm paraphrasing an early lesson. I am determined to see. I believe it's somewhere around lesson 20 or something. So that's the Ark of Safety. It's that place in the mind. Right? And we walk hand in hand. And then we realize the oneness. Right? And we haven't even started. So here we go. Paragraph 1. God asks for nothing, and his Son, like him, need ask for nothing. For there is no lack in him. An empty space, a little gap, would be a lack. And it is only there that he could want for something he has not. A space where God is not, a gap between the Father and the Son, is not the will of the Father, not the will of either, who have promised to be one. God's promise is a promise to himself, and there is no one who could be untrue to what he wills as part of what he is. The promise that there is no gap between himself and what he is cannot be false. What will can come between what must be one, and in whose wholeness there can be no gap? So what will can come between what must be one, and in whose wholeness there can be no gap? Okay. Jesus is just telling us over and over again, there is no gap between you and the Creator. There is no gap between you and God. There is no gap between you and the primal source, whatever word you want to choose. See, one of the problems we run into is that we need to use words to communicate at this point. Right? And the words are very limiting. And words like God carry so much baggage, it gets confused. Right? I mean, Jesus even says at one point in the Course, you can't even imagine the word God without a form, without conjuring up some form or something. Right? So the words are limiting, but we got to tap into the idea. Right? As even in the New Testament, Jesus was purported to say, I and the Father are one. Okay. No space, there's no gap in between. All right. He says, an empty space. And he says, so you don't need anything. He says, God doesn't need anything. And you don't need anything either because you are that. All right? You are that. All right? And of course, we're talking about our true nature as abstract spirit. All right? I'm going walking around the world like you're God, So, just kidding, just a little joke. So he says, God asks for nothing, and his Son, like him, need ask for nothing, for there is no lack in him. Right? An empty space, a little gap, would be a lack. So any kind of separation between me and God, he says, that would be a lack. And that little gap is the lack. Right? He says, in actuality, there is none. And it's hard for our brains to grasp that, all right, intellectually, all right, but it's not impossible to grasp it experientially. We can experience the oneness. We can experience through that ark of safety, we can get to the oneness, that peace that's in the mind. Right? So he says a little gap would be a lack. And it is only there that he could want for something he has not. It's only in that idea that I'm separated from God that we have needs. I need something. I need to breathe. I need to eat. Right? I need something sweet right now. We have all these needs. Psychological, physical. Have all these needs. And he says, that's in that little gap because you believe you're separated from the source from which you emanated. Right? Which the Course uses the term God. Right? It uses all these Christian terms, but it is decidedly not a Christian course. Right? It came through a woman who loved the certain parts of Christianity, right? Especially the Baptists. Her caretaker would take her to Baptist ceremonies as a child, and she became enamored of them. She loved that. She felt that divine presence through the song, the actions, the sounds. And so when she connected with all that is, and it came through her, it came through her as like a filter, right? And it picked up aspects of her personality. It's like you can pour from a pitcher of water, you can pour into 5 different vessels. It's things that hold water, each with a different shape. Right? So they all look different. If you tap them, they'll sound different. But what's there is the water. It's the same. Okay. One of many tangents. So a space, in paragraph 1, sentence 5, a space where God is not, a gap between the Father and the Son, is not the will of either. Neither the Father nor the Son wills there to be a gap in actuality, because they've promised to be one. All right? You and your Creator have promised to be one. God's promise is a promise to himself. And there is no one who could be untrue to what he wills as part of what he is. All right? Sounds like mind-spinning Shakespeare, but once again, there's no separation. If you read that sentence, telling you there's no separation. God's promise is a promise to himself. And in its previous sentence, he's talking about promise between God and his Son. Then he says, well, God makes a promise to himself. Okay? The offspring and the Creator are one. Okay? And that's you. And there's a part of your mind that remembers that. And there's a part of your mind that does not want to remember that. Because if it remembers the relationship with the Creator, the form will disintegrate. The form will disappear. And that's what we're afraid of. That's what Jesus is talking about, undoing this fear. All right, so we could say, we could call it the fear of God, but that's, becoming like a trite phrase. It's like becomes a hammer at times, throughout the centuries. Nobody needs to be afraid of God, but what does it mean? Think about it. It means being afraid of who you truly are. Being afraid of your true nature. Because in the presence of your true nature, which is the same as God, all these forms are insignificant and they fade away. That's what we're afraid of. All right. So you do it little by little. I always compare it to going swimming in a mountain lake. For people like me, we got to go in one toe at a time because that's cold. So you go very slowly. Ow, ooh, ow, ooh. All right. Until you can become submerged, right? Immersed in the waters of memory. All right. But what Jesus is trying to tell us is that you're not separate. You don't have any needs. Paragraph 1, sentence 7. The promise that there is no gap between himself and what he is cannot be false. All right. What will can come between what must be one, and in whose wholeness there can be no gap? All right. He's trying to tell us, you may think you're separate, but that ain't happening. He says, you made that up, and it was gone. The minute you thought it up, it was over. Paragraph 2, the beautiful relationship you have with all your brothers is a part of you because it is a part of God himself. Are you not sick if you deny yourself your wholeness and your health, the source of help, the call to healing, and the call to heal. Your Savior waits for healing, and the world waits with him. Nor are you apart from it. For healing will be one or not at all. Its oneness being where the healing is. What could correct for separation but its opposite? There is no middle ground in any aspect of salvation. You accept it wholly or accept it not. What is unseparated must be joined. And what is joined cannot be separate. Just repeating the same ideas over and over again. That concept of overlearning that he spoke to Helen about. Just repeating the same concept over and over again in different ways. And he's telling us this is, like he says, this course will be believed in its entirety or not at all. All right? There's no two ways about it. He says either there's a gap between you or you and your brother are one. Which way do you want to see it? All right? He says there is no in between. There's no other choice. And no allegiance to be split between the two. You can't have a little separation and a little oneness. Right? Although I try. As one of the carpenters on Gene's job once said, no, it can't be done. Could you fix that? No, it can't be done. Well, that's what Jesus is saying. It can't be done. You can't have a little oneness and a little separation. Alrighty then. He says, are you not sick if you deny yourself your wholeness and your health? So, if I deny my wholeness, I believe I'm separated. Once again, telling us that's sickness. He says, so you're sick. You're denying yourself your wholeness and your health. Right? Because the health is the realization of oneness, realization of your unity with your Creator. That got nothing to do with the body. Right? Pardon my Queen's English. Doesn't have anything to do with the body. Because healing is one or not at all. All right. Let's see, where am I? Are you not sick if you deny yourself your wholeness and your health, the source of help? Right? Your wholeness and your health. That's your unity with your Creator. And he just calls it the source of help, the call to healing, the call to heal. So he's telling us that this memory of the unity is in the mind, and that's the source of our help. Right? That's calling to us to heal the thought of separation. Right? That's the call to healing and the call to heal. And your Savior waits for healing, and the world waits with him. Right? Now, taking the oneness into consideration, your Savior, who is the other, is waiting. He's waiting for healing. She's waiting for healing. And the world waits with him and her. It's all oneness. The mind is one. If I'm willing to see the other person correctly, he says, behind them stands 1,000 more. We're healing on so many levels. And he says, nor are you apart from it. You're healed also. For healing will be one or not at all. Healing is for everyone. You are included. You cannot be separate. For healing will be one or not at all. It's oneness being where the healing is. Coming back full circle to the idea of oneness. Right? In your mind is the memory of the oneness. That's the source of the healing. Right? And the oneness is where the healing is. Right? Paragraph 2, sentence 6. What could correct for separation? What can correct the separation? But its opposite. Right? The joining, the healing. The realization of oneness, the willingness to experience the oneness, in my case. All right. So what could correct for separation, but its opposite? There is no middle ground in any aspect of salvation. All right. Once again, there's no middle ground. There's no neutral gear. One or the other. You accept it wholly or accept it not. Right. So either I accept the fact that I'm not separated entirely, or I accept it not. Right. And let me just say, in those very, very brief, at times, moments, when we go to the right mind and ask for correction, there the healing is. All right? Let me catch it. Right? So there's no middle ground. You accept it wholly or accept it not. What is unseparated must be joined. And what is joined cannot separate. Right? This is what heals. And in our experience, my experience, I can't speak for anybody else, I come to the right mind and I have that moment and the healing comes through. All right? I do see the situation correctly. All right? But in my experience, there's that tendency to run away because of the fear of losing form. I run back to the ego thought system, the idea of separation. And then I start the process again until I get to the point where I want to stay in my right mind for longer and longer periods of time. I want to see the world through my right mind for longer periods of time until I get to the point where what the Course calls the real world, right? Where I'm actually seeing everything through the light of the oneness, and it's all reflecting the oneness back to me. And then the fear of the form dissipating is no longer there. It's okay, everything's cool. You get it. All right? So that's what one of the reasons why we say we're undoing fear. And it's all tied together with this, with the idea of forgiveness and being willing to see the other correctly. And because you're included in the healing, you will begin to see yourself correctly. And you can also, directly desire that. Help me to see myself correctly, because sometimes we truly project a lot of hate onto ourselves. So, okay. So the last two sentences of paragraph 2. What is unseparated must be joined. That's everything. And what is joined cannot separate. Right? He's trying to tell us, like that Denzel Washington movie where he says, explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old, something like that. So that's what Jesus is doing. He's going, look, what is unseparated must be joined, and what is joined cannot separate. Okay, kids? Paragraph 3. Either there is a gap between you and your brother, or you are as one. There is no in between. There's no other choice, and no other allegiance to be split between the two. A split allegiance is but faithlessness to both, and merely sets you spinning around to grasp uncertainly at any straw that seems to hold some promise of relief. Yet who can build his home upon a straw and count on it as shelter from the wind? The body can be made a home like this because it lacks foundation in the truth. And yet, because it does, it can be seen as not your home, but merely as an aid to help you reach the home where God abides. Very powerful concept. Okay? That the body can be an aid to help you reach the true home. All right? So don't disregard your body. Do what you can to make yourself comfortable, healthy. Just don't obsess. Then the ego has got a hold of you. But you don't deny yourself. All right. There's no need for self-flagellation or hair shirts or starving yourself. No need to punish. Remember how I believe, did he start the chapter by saying who punishes the body is insane? Well, somewhere along there. That was one of the sections. Who punishes the body is insane. Okay. That's me getting distracted by myself. So either there's a gap between you and your brother, or you're one. There's no other choice. All right? There's no allegiance to be split between the two. All right? And like he says, a split allegiance is faithlessness to both. And that idea of faithlessness, that word comes up a lot in the Course. That means where do you put your faith? Where do you put your trust? What do you believe in? Do you believe in the separation, or do you believe in the oneness? He says if you try to give a little to each, you're going to be spinning around in circles. Tumbling like Alice down a rabbit hole. Then you'd be trying to figure out what can I hold on to for some relief? I hate this tumbling. Boy, this is a day of distractions, because I'm reminded of a Paul Simon lyric that goes, there's a girl in New York City who calls herself the human trampoline. And to paraphrase, at times when I am falling, calling, tumbling in tumult, I say, oh, so this is what she means. That perfectly, to me, describes what Jesus is talking about. An allegiance to both oneness and separation causes me to feel like I'm tumbling in turmoil. I'm looking to grasp at something that will give me some relief. It merely sets you spinning around to grasp uncertainly at any straw that seems to hold some promise of relief. Then he brings up that image of straw. And he says, who can build his home upon a straw? Oh, this is what it is. This is the foundation of my home. All right, this will give me some relief. All right, he says, who can build a home on foundation of straw and believe that it will give you shelter from the wind? The body can be made a home like this because it lacks foundation in truth. So the body can be this house that's built on straw, got a straw foundation. He is because it's built on something that's not true. It's built on the thought of separation. Right? So the body can act as a home like this because it lacks foundation in the truth. And yet, because it does, it can be seen as not your home. Right? Because you realize that it's not the truth. Right? But now you can use it. The purpose changes. Right? Not as a proof of separation, but now I can use it as an aid to help me reach my true home, where God abides. And your true home, it's impossible to describe. It's that abstract realization of total love and safety and abundance and bliss, all those things. The spaciousness that Eckhart Tolle talks about. In the spaciousness, where God abides, where your true self lives or is. So, paragraph 4. With this purpose is the body healed. When I change the purpose of the body to helping me realize the truth about myself, helping me realize the truth about my relationship with oneness. With this as purpose is the body healed. We're not talking about symptoms here. Right? We're not talking about symptoms. All right? I got more creaky parts than an old gate. So we're not talking about the body being healed. Right? But with the change in purpose, the desire for truth, the willingness to see the truth, and have it arise in our awareness, the body is healed, and it's not used to witness to the dream of separation and disease. Nor is it idly blamed for what it did not do. It serves to help the healing of God's Son, and for this purpose it cannot be sick. It will not join a purpose not your own, and you have chosen that it not be sick. All miracles are based upon this choice, and given you the instant it is made. No forms of sickness are immune, because the choice cannot be made in terms of form. The choice of sickness seems to be of form, yet it is one as is its opposite, and you are sick or well accordingly. Okay, so with the newfound purpose of dedicating myself to, above all else, I want to see. I want to see the truth. I want the truth to arise in my awareness. I'm tired of, I don't want to fight no more, as they say. I don't want to be projecting negativity, finding the guilty people. I'm tired of it. I want to rest in peace. I want to rest in that Ark of Safety. And with this purpose, the body is healed, because we're not obsessed with it. All right? We don't ignore it. I mean, you got a toothache, you got to go to the dentist, man, you know? So you don't ignore it. Like Ken would say, be normal. Right? But doesn't witness to the dream of separation. Now we're not using it to prove that we're separated from the oneness. And we're not blaming it for what it did not do. Right? We're not blaming the body for the separation. We're not blaming the body for making us feel bad. And I'm not using your body to blame for making me feel bad either. All right? It serves to help the healing of God's Son. And for this purpose, it cannot be sick. All right? So for the healing, we don't look at it as a proof of separation. And it will not join a purpose, not your own. I mean, we were talking about for the last couple of sessions. When people are in distress, people are having a meltdown, people are going crazy. We're not sucked into it. All right? But we can be there if we need to help. We can be very helpful, knowing that we're not separate from God. And this person is reacting to the belief that they're separated from God. And they're so terrifyingly on their own that they are tumbling in turmoil. They are spinning, looking for a straw to hold on to. And the straw, I don't think a straw, but what we can offer is our mind. All right? Accepting the oneness, being willing to see the oneness past the form. And in that, the minds are healed. That holy instant goes out to the entire mind. There's only one mind. All right? And even though the person who's in distress, their form might not change, their actions, their words probably won't change, but in the mind, as I say, it's in the bank for them when they're ready to tap into it. And meanwhile, we're not agreeing with the frightening aspect of separation, but we're there to be compassionate, to be empathetic. That's true empathy. All right? And if you need to say something, you will know what to say. If you need to do something, you will know what to do. But you just immediately join with that ark of safety, that place of safety in your mind, where the knowledge of everything is, who you are. Right? Words get in the way, right? So you will not join a purpose not your own, and you have chosen that it will not be sick. You made the choice not to see sickness. In other words, not to see separation. Right? Remember, we're not talking about symptoms here. He's never talking about symptoms, really. So, paragraph 4, sentence 6, all miracles are based upon this choice. This choice, help me to see correctly. I'm willing to see correctly. It says all miracles are based on that choice. All changes of perception are based on that choice. And it's given to you the instant it is made, the instant that choice is made. The change is there, the miracle is there. Right? No forms of sickness are immune, because the choice cannot be made in terms of form. So it doesn't matter. No matter what extreme sickness we see in form, right? Whether it's somebody has got some terrible deterioration, or they got gout, or they got a cold, or they have COVID, or this and that, whatever. It says no form of sickness is immune from seeing it correctly, because the choice is not made in terms of form. Right? The form doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is my choice. Please help me to see the truth. Please help me to realize the truth in this situation. I want to look past the form. Right? Whether there's some gigantic monster, right? Or some annoying fly in the kitchen. Right? The choice isn't made because of the form. The choice of sickness seems to be of form in sentence 8. Yet it is one, as is its opposite. He's saying the choice of sickness seems to be of form. What's the form of the sickness? What happened? How did you get here? Let's look at, let's look at your family of origin. Let's look at what you ate, He says the choice of sickness seems to be a form, yet it is one, as is its opposite. So it's one. It's the choice to believe you're separated. It's the choice to believe you're separated. It manifested in this body, which deteriorates, which gets sick physically. All right. He says, yet it all comes from the same source. It's one. As is the opposite, as is the healing. So the healing doesn't matter about the form. It all is the acceptance of the atonement, to put it another way. The fact that nothing happened. The fact that the separation never happened. I go to my right mind, or I go to my mind and I say, help me to see correctly. In other words, help me to see that the separation never happened. So the choice of sickness seems to be one of form, yet it is one, as is its opposite. And you are sick or well accordingly. So if you are sick or well according to your choice, do I choose to realize the oneness? Or do I choose separation? He says you're sick or well according to that choice. There's a wonderful Irish woman on social media. One of her phrases, she says it to a lot of her horses and dogs. She goes, "Are you well? Are you well?" So you're sick or well according to your choice. Right? It's always our choice, my choice. What is it that I want to experience? Paragraph 5. But never you alone. All right? You're sick or well according to your choice, but never you alone. This world is but the dream that you can be alone and think without affecting those apart from you. To be alone must mean you are apart, and if you are, you cannot but be sick. This seems to prove that you must be apart, yet all it means is that you tried to keep a promise to be true to faithlessness. Yet faithlessness is sickness. It is like the house set upon straw. It seems to be quite solid and substantial in itself, yet its stability cannot be judged apart from its foundation. If it rests on straw, there is no need to bar the door and lock the windows or make fast the bolts. the wind will topple it, and rain will come and carry it into oblivion. All right. So we only give the appearance of being quite solid and substantial. But he says no matter what you do, the wind's going to come and knock you down. All right? If it rests on straw, there's no need to bar the door and lock the windows and make fast the bolts, because the wind's going to knock it down anyway. And the rain will come and carry it into oblivion. All right? But he says this is not you alone. You're not alone in this. He says the whole world is but the dream that you could be alone and think without affecting those apart from you. Right? To be alone, you must mean you are apart. If you are, you cannot be anything else but sick. Right? And the sickness proves that you must be apart. It means that you try to keep a promise to be true to faithlessness. Right? I tried to be true to faithlessness, which is the ego. I put my faith into separation. And he calls it faithlessness because it's impossible to be separate. So it's faithlessness. He says you put your trust in that. Yet faithlessness is sickness. It keeps repeating the same ideas over and over again. All right? But he says in that first sentence, you're not alone, because the mind is joined. Right? There's also a daily exercise that says, when I am healed, I am not healed alone. And another one that says, I am not alone in the effects of my thinking. It's just very early on, trying to tell us this very thing. You are not alone in what you think, how it affects the sonship, all right, the oneness. Seeing if I can put my finger on it. Oh well. Give myself another 10 seconds. Lesson 19. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. All right. I am not alone in seeing in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. That's early on. That's, like I say, lesson 19 or something. Always giving us the idea that the minds are joined. There's only one mind. All right. So, let's go on to paragraph 6. What is the sense in seeking to be safe in what was made for danger and for fear? Why burden it with further locks and chains and heavy anchors, when its weakness lies not in itself, but in the frailty of the little gap of nothingness whereon it stands? What can be safe that rests upon a shadow? Would you build your home upon what will collapse beneath a feather's weight? Okay. He's talking about the idea of separation, the belief in separation. That's the little gap. He says, so what is the sense in seeking to be safe in what was made for danger and for fear? Right? This whole world was made for danger and for fear, including my body, to prove that we're separated. He says, why do you knock yourself out trying to make yourself safe in a place that was made for danger and for fear. And he said, why burden yourself with the further locks and chains and heavy anchors? When the weakness lies in the frailty of the little gap of nothingness whereon it stands. The weakness in the whole system lies in the belief in separation. All right? The weakness lies not in itself, right? Not in the world, not in your body, but in the frailty of the little gap of nothingness, the frailty of the belief in separation. And what can be safe that rests upon a shadow? So what can be safe that rests upon this belief in separation? So why would you build your home upon what will collapse beneath a feather's weight? Okay. So paragraph 7, which Dr. Wapnick reminded us, is like a summation of the chapter, the whole chapter, this undoing of fear. He says, your home is built upon your brother's health, upon his happiness, his sinlessness, and everything his father promised him. No secret promise you have made instead has shaken the foundation of his home. The winds will blow upon it, and the rain will beat against it, but with no effect. The world will wash away, and yet this house will stand forever. For its strength lies not within itself alone. It is an ark of safety, resting on God's promise that his Son is safe forever in himself. What gap can interpose itself between the safety of this shelter and its source? From here, the body can be seen as what it is, and neither less nor more is worth than the extent to which it can be used to liberate God's Son unto his home. And with this holy purpose is it made a home of holiness a little while, because it shares your Father's will with you. All right. So he says, your home is built upon your brother's health. He's talking about the oneness. And my being willing to experience the oneness and the innocence and the totality in the other, I experience it in myself. All right. So, like I used to say early on, let everybody be happy, because my happiness depends on theirs. All right? Your home is built on your brother's health, upon his happiness. So your home is built upon the other's happiness and his sinlessness. Your sinlessness is built upon that. And everything his Father promised him. All right? Because of the oneness. And he says, and no secret promise you have made has shaken the foundation. All right? So no little belief in separation has shaken the foundation of who you really are and who the other really is, because you're the same. All right? This is the winds will blow against it, will blow upon it, and the rain will beat against it with no effect. So the ego system, the world, will beat against it. All right, it'll throw itself in front of you and against you. All right? But it won't do anything. All right? The winds will blow upon it, the rain will beat against it, but with no effect. All right? It doesn't matter what goes on in form. When I'm in my right mind, I get it. I understand. I'm peaceful. I am in that ark of safety, in my right mind. That's why Jesus says, don't seek to change the world. Seek to change your mind about the world. Seek to change your perception. And we do that by going to that peaceful place in the mind. And remember, it takes much longer to verbalize it than it does to actualize it. As Ken would say, can you say help? Help. Help me. Right. Like the ending of the movie The Fly. Help me. Oh my goodness. So, the world will wash away, and yet this house will stand forever. For its strength lies not within itself alone. The world, everything will wash away, because the strength doesn't lie in the form. It's in the mind. The mind never washes away. The mind is forever. This house will stand forever, for its strength lies not within itself alone. Right? It is an ark of safety, resting on God's promise that his Son is safe forever in himself. Very beautiful, poetic metaphors, right? Repeating that you are not separated from God. You are resting comfortably in the mind of God. Words don't do it justice. Poets, much better than I, can say it better, but they're still using words to describe the experience of not being separate from your Creator and being in that milieu of ultimate, infinite safety. It's an ark of safety, resting on God's promise that his Son is safe forever in himself. What gap can interpose itself between the safety of this shelter and its source? There's nothing. Nothing can come in and come between you, so to speak. Nothing can make a gap between you and your Creator, between you and the oneness, between you and the great expanse of existence. So what gap can interpose itself between the safety of this shelter and its source? From here, the body can be seen as what it is, and neither less nor more is worth than the extent to which it can be used to liberate God's Son unto his home. So the body can become a classroom, right? And we can use it to the extent to which we can be liberated and realize that the body is not where we live. We are in the mind of God. And with this holy purpose, it is made a home of holiness a little while, because it shares your Father's will with you. So with this change in purpose, let the body be a classroom where Jesus calls us happy learners, because we can learn to see what it is that we don't want. I don't want the ego. I'm willing to see the truth. And our day-to-day experience becomes our classroom. Our body becomes the classroom. And with this holy purpose is the classroom made a home of holiness a little while. Because it don't last forever. The body don't last forever. Because it shares your Father's will with you. My Father's will is that we are one. So when I have that purpose, in my mundane existence and form, I use everything in form. Please help me to realize truth. Help me to see correctly. Help me to experience the truth. And I work at it every day. And with this holy purpose, this home is made of holiness a little while, because it shares your Father's will with you, because we're using it as a tool to remember the oneness. And that is the Ark of Safety in the mind. It's the source of healing, all healing. All right. And with that, we come to the end of chapter 28. Just a little addendum that Ark of Safety helps us undo the fear of ourselves, the fear of the truth about us, which is that we're not separated from God, and that this is an illusion. Now I'm thinking of the Moody Blues. In Nights in White Satin, at the end they go, cold-hearted orb that rules the night, removes the colors from our sight. And red is gold and yellow white, but we decide which is right and which is an illusion. That song grabbed me when I was like 16. And here we are. We decide, what is it I want to see? What is it that I want to see? And we go to that source of healing. Help me to see correctly. All right, my friends, that's enough of me. I look forward to beginning the next chapter with you. See ya.